kami masih membuka pendaftaran Bapak Ibu. Untuk yang kelas Selasa Kamis, kita full online sampai lulus. Bahkan bimbingan tesis juga online, ujian juga online, kecuali wisuda. Ya, semoga wisuda kita bisa bertemu. Masa kita online terus ya, supaya bisa main ke kampus kita di Malang. Untuk yang kelas Sabtu kita ada program hybrid, jadi offline dan online, tapi Bapak Ibu tidak perlu khawatir. Kalaupun tidak bisa hadir di offline, kita ada video dan materi di Google Classroom, jadi bisa diakses setiap waktu. Ya, minta tolong kepada Bapak Ibu dan teman-teman, mungkin ada partner, klien yang sampai saat ini belum mendengar informasi kami tentang program S2 Magister Manajemen Kampus Asia. Bulan ini kami masih buka pendaftaran, jadi bisa segera untuk mendaftarkan, dan biaya semua bisa dibayar secara bertahap. Ya, baik, ini saja yang kami sampaikan. Untuk informasi lebih lanjut tentang pendaftaran, Bapak Ibu bisa melihat di website kami. Nanti kami akan masukkan di chat. Kemudian juga bisa menghubungi admin kami. Kami akan segera fast respon untuk proses pendaftaran. Ya, ini saja yang kami sampaikan. Ada hal lain nanti Bapak Ibu bisa chat, bisa WA ke kami. Supaya tidak terlalu malam, hari ini acara akan dipandu oleh langsung ya sama Bu Rektor. Beliau memang sengaja hadir. Hari ini dan minggu depan kami akan hadir ya. Jadi keistimewaan di Kampus Asia meskipun libur, kita tetap menyediakan seminar-seminar berbobot ya, dan itu free, bisa dikonsumsi untuk mahasiswa juga teman-teman di luar Kampus Asia. Nah, ini schedule rutin yang selalu kami berikan kepada teman-teman. Baik, tidak berlama-lama, acara selanjutnya kami berikan ke Ibu Rektor. Silahkan Bu Rektor.
Oke, ini teman-teman sepertinya suaranya tadi agak kecil, tapi kok suara saya ini gimana nih? Boleh dikasihin feedback nggak?
Oke, sudah oke Bu, aman.
Aman ya?
Ya.
Ini kalau misalnya belum dengar, mungkin bisa coba di bawah ada biasanya connect audio. Jadi teman-teman bisa connect audio. Kalau misalnya enggak, mungkin bisa nge-restart. Ini semoga kita saling mengingatkan ya di sini. Ini saya mau mengucapkan dulu terima kasih banyak buat teman-teman yang hadir di sini. Ini beberapa saat yang lalu saya sempat berdiskusi dengan Bu Tere, dengan teman-teman di S2, juga dengan Pak Kanadi. Sempat ini kita mau memberikan kelas sebelum kelas kita mulai. Jadi teman-teman misalnya mau mengajak ada kenalan ataupun mungkin ada orang-orang yang tertarik untuk S2 di kantornya untuk melihat bagaimana sih kita ini S2 berjalan seperti apa dan kelas-kelas kita seperti apa. Jadi kita mengundang teman-teman ini boleh disebarkan minggu ini dan minggu depan. Minggu ini kita kedatangan tamu yang khusus keren banget dari Singapura. Ini ya, jadi karena teknologi kita dari Singapura pun bisa mengundang narasumber gitu ya. Dan nanti minggu depan akan ada juga dari Apple Academy. Jadi nanti teman-teman pada akhir acara akan saya informasikan lebih jauh. Nah, ini yang menariknya, hari ini kita bakal berbicara mengenai HR trends, jadi trends di human resources post pandemic. Setelah pandemic ini selesai, apa yang akan terjadi kepada human resources kita? Tentunya pasti ada yang berubah, ada yang mungkin stay the same gitu ya. Tapi yang paling penting ini antisipasi kita seperti apa sih ke depannya? Apakah mungkin teman-teman sudah bekerja atau mungkin belum bekerja atau mungkin mempunyai perusahaan sendiri, lagi seorang entrepreneur. Paling enggak ini penting untuk kita mendapatkan insight baru untuk bisa ke depannya mengantisipasi dan lebih memaksimalkan pekerjaan kita. Nah, jadi hari ini saya bakal bilingual, separuh-separuh Inggris-Indo, padahal ini DARYL sudah lumayan mengerti bahasa Indonesia ya. Sedikit-sedikit, a little bit, DARYL can understand Indonesian. Jadi nanti sesinya akan saya pandu, pembicaranya ada dua, hari ini ada DARYL GOH, dan dia ini dari Purcell Kelly, punya 9 years of working experience di HR Singapura, dan saat ini dia overseeing Purcell Kelly Consulting di sana. Dan juga we have May Lee, jadi May ini juga dari Purcell Kelly, sebelumnya backgroundnya di Education and Technology, jadi sebelumnya kalau teman-teman mau tahu mengenai teknologi perkembangannya ini, May is the person to go. Terus she is very good in LinkedIn. Ini mungkin teman-teman kalau mau punya insight mengenai LinkedIn ya, kita mungkin di Indo kurang memaksimalkan LinkedIn. Tapi ini bisa tanya juga ini di sini oleh May. dan sekarang dia adalah senior consultant di Personal Kelly. Jadi dalam sesi ini kita akan breakdown dari beberapa kali di tengah untuk question and answer. Misalnya teman-teman ada question and answer, silahkan dimasukkan di chat saja. Nanti pada saat break atau pada saat di tengah-tengah materi akan kita jawab bersama-sama. So there you go. Right now I'm going to let Daryl share his background and May as well and start this conversation. Hopefully this session will be beneficial for everyone here. And please go ahead.
All right. Selamat malam, Ibu, Bapak, Ibu. I haven't been speaking Bahasa in a while. So apa kabar? Thank you so much, for having spent your evening with us. Really hope that you will be able to gain a lot of insights out of our time of sharing together. Yeah. So can you all see my screen? Is everything okay? Yeah, it's good, right? Awesome. Great. Yeah. So a little background about myself. I've been working in HR consulting for a while. Before that, I am actually a startup person, right? So I ran various startups. I've pitched to Alibaba and the likes. And I've actually graduated from my bachelor's in business. I went ahead to do my MBA. And I'm going to do my doctoral studies actually in hypo management. So very much in the HR space, passion is really to develop employees. So COVID, as you all know, have brought about massive changes, right, in the whole HR landscape. And particularly for this topic, just want to say that Indonesia is very close to my heart. Reason is because when I was in Gallup previously, right, I spent about 2.5 years in Gallup, and for 1.5 years, I was overseeing business development in Indonesia. So I spent a lot of time, almost every month, right? I will spend about 1 week or so in Indonesia. I will fly over, and I have a lot of good friends like Risa and Pak Tanadi as well. So Indonesia is something that is still very close to my heart, even though it's not the region that I'm overseeing right now. So I hope you have any questions. Feel free to connect, and we will really love to address any inquiries that you have. Right? So what we're going to do now is I'm going to hand this time over to my colleague May. May is going to talk through some of the things that we have seen in 2020. It's not been an easy year, but moving forward, we want to inspire you and give you hope, right? That the economic is moving towards an endemic instead of a pandemic. So it's going to be very exciting. So we hope to really add value, right? So May, over to you.
Thank you, Daryl. Hi, good evening, everyone. Selamat malam. So I wasn't from the HR space, but after being in the last row in the digital solutions industry, I understand how important it is to do adult learning, and I was involved in some of the training programs. So coming together, working with Daryl at Personal Kelly, ignites that passion even more. So today's agenda, we have 7 parts. So from HR trends in APAC to the immediate impact of what it means this year for us, all the way to the talent challenges faced by, I can't really see this, hold on. Right, by Indonesia's HR leaders, and then the necessary skills that in which Daryl is going to bring you through to the next decades of employees' experience, as well as our offerings. Next, Daryl. So at Personal Kelly, we see to the end-to-end of the HR solutions, from the general recruitment to outsourcing, and to the last 2 components that Daryl and I are heavily invested in, which is HR consulting, as well as the government and corporate services. So so at Personal Kelly, we have 13 markets in the APAC region, and we serve over 59,000 clients, as well as 2,300 professionals. So we have been in the industry for more than 40 years. So we are not just focusing in APAC, but we are really specializing in this. Thank you, Daryl. So the HR trends in APAC, we understand that from the beginning or the start of the pandemic last year, it has brought so much uncertainties that resulted in the following behaviors. It includes the reduction of manpower to sustain businesses. We know that in that area, there's a hiring freeze due to negative growth and disruption in the industries across various roles and functions. There's also experimenting with a mixture of pay reduction, follow or work sharing measures, reduction in developmental investment for employees, which means cutting down on trainings, courses, even coaching. And this would increase stress due to lack of opportunities. So with this happening, it resulted in 3 of these followings: reduction in employee engagement, because it could be due to no more face-to-face meetings. We have to work from home. There's an increase in stress. Managers are trying to adopt to new working styles, as well as the recognition of necessary future skills in order to remain competitive. So the HR trends in APAC, in summary, they're moving from layoffs to mass hiring. There is a shift from remote working to hybrid. So you may choose to work from home or in the offices. A shift in focus from managerial skills to coaching skills, right? Probably managers may need to check in with the teams regularly when you're not seeing them face to face to ask about their wellness. Increase in company initiatives to putting workers' health and safety first. So organizations are in anticipation for growth and rebound from last year's relatively negative performances to seeing more positive performances this year.
Alright, so I'll help summarize. Jadi saya akan summary-kan. Misalnya teman-teman nanti ada yang sesuatu pertanyaan ataupun yang lainnya bisa langsung di chat box. Dan ini sesuatu yang menarik banget yang tadi Mei sempat ceritakan. Jadi yang pertama tentunya Persol Kelly ini sudah lama banget ya, 40 tahun di HR space. Jadi ada end-to-end solution di mana data-data mereka juga terbackup dari personal experience dari perusahaan mereka juga, dan juga dari data-data yang selama ini terkumpul. Dan yang menarik, ini yang saya catat ya. Ini kita ini karena pandemi mempunyai sebuah perubahan shifting dari yang mengurangi employee, nggak ada trainingnya dikurangin, peningkatan stres kepada teman-teman yang bekerja, dan tentunya ada new working style. Nah, tapi menariknya ini katanya kita ini akan memasuki masa di Asia Pasifik dari layoff, jadi orang-orang yang dipecat itu ya, menjadi mass hiring. Jadi hiring atau mencari talent baru yang dengan jumlah yang sangat banyak. Dan tentunya ada perubahan dari working yang mungkin sebelumnya itu offline saja, sekarang menjadi hybrid working space. Dan ini tentunya yang diinformasikan Mei juga. Jadi sekarang ini kebutuhan kita daripada managerial skills, lebih banyak coaching skill yang dibutuhkan. Dan ini mungkin sesuatu yang belum kita antisipasi juga gitu ya. Nah ini jadi kita lanjutkan. Kalau misalnya teman-teman ada pertanyaan boleh di chat box. Tapi ini menurut saya sesuatu yang sangat menarik sih. Kalau misalnya, so maybe if there's no questions, we can just move on to Daryl.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So guys, as you all can see, right, last year was a very difficult year, and but the good thing is actually we're moving towards an endemic in some parts of APAC, right? So just wanted to show you this trend when we were doing our research that is very, very interesting, right? So as you begin to see, you will notice certain things coming up. So let's take our time, digest and look at the different components, right, of the immediate trends in 2021. Now, let's probably start by looking at this portion. Can you all see the cursor? Is it possible to see the cursor? No. All right, it's fine.
It was a blow.
Can see? All right. Okay. Very good. Yeah. So in 2020, right, last year, a lot of companies are not doing very, very well because of COVID, right? A lot of companies, they were holding back. So they were very careful not to spend too much money. And attrition was all-time low. So companies are not firing or rather letting go of people at a very steady rate, right? So what happened last year in Singapore and some of the APAC countries were that companies at the start of COVID decided not to fire, right? So we have very big major banks that says we will not fire anybody, right? We are going to keep our employees. But as time goes by, right, they started to change their strategy. So they moved from 100% employment to 50-50. I still keep all the employees, but you only need to come half the time. Slowly that 50-50 strategy start to change again. And then when they couldn't take it anymore, when P&L is not moving, they started massively firing people, right? So that resulted in a lot of stress. So when you look at the data over here, you could see that, you know, because of the trends in 2021, right, a lot of managers and directors, right, they have remained in their job, right? Not because of anything else, but because of job security. They wanted to stay in the company, earn as much money as they can, right? But unfortunately, there is a group of us or a group of people, right, that has no choice but to leave the organization due to downsizing or outplacement services. Now, what we notice is, if you see over here, right, that in 2021, there is what we call a tsunami of retrenchment or a tsunami of attrition that is coming, and it's going to hit APAC, right? So we're seeing it in the US right now, where a lot of companies are actually starting hiring again, right? So they are looking for good talents, and there is talent crunch because there are so many organizations that cannot find good people, right? So in Singapore, we are beginning to see the trend happening to us. Okay, we are seeing unemployment rates go down from 2020. We are seeing that there are more jobs being opened up, right? So again, in Indonesia and probably, you know, in some parts of India and China as well, they are moving towards this endemic state where companies realize that, hey, look, you know, COVID is going nowhere. We need to stay. Okay, we need to stay and we need to do business as usual. Right. So later in the coming slides, we will talk a little bit about restructuring work, right? Upskilling and all these different factors. But what we can see that is very alarming and very scary from a HR perspective is this. You realize here, right, that in 2022, right, 53% of directors and managers, 51% of senior executive leaders say that they will look for a job next year, right? So in other words, your leaders, your managers, your top CEOs are deciding to switch companies. Okay. Now, traditionally speaking, right, we all know that Gen Z and millennials, they change job every 2-3 years. Okay. But what is scary is that Gen X, 42% of them are also looking to change job next year. Wow. Okay. So this article, this research, right, wanted to find out why. Right? Why managers, directors, and your senior leaders, why would they want to change job? Okay, because this has never happened in history before. Okay, now the reason they say is because of burnout and stress. Okay, burnout and stress. Okay, 29% of them said that they want more growth opportunities that they are not getting in the last 2 years because of COVID. Right? So they are out there looking for good companies, and they're just waiting for the market to make a shift. And let me tell you guys, the market is shifting. Okay, 17% of them say that their job is too stressful. And you realize that most people from this 17% are actually the directors and executives. Reason is because they have always been managing people in a certain way, right? They realize that because of COVID, suddenly there has to be a switch in their managerial skills. They realize that the skills that they have currently cannot match the future. And that is why their job is stressful. So some of the managers and directors that we have spoken to in with our clients, right, has decided to go back to individual contributor roles, right? Because they realize that managing in the COVID pandemic world is going to be very, very different as the normal traditional way of management. Okay. Now, 15% of them say that they are burned out from the pandemic and need a break, right? And we will touch on later on about these trends. So as you can see, right, holistically, if we look logically at the patterns and the trends that is coming up, firstly, it is China and US that has already started their recovery. Right now in those countries, right, they are finding a lot of jobs, but very little talent. Okay. After we saw that trend happening, a couple of months later, Singapore right now is going to experience this kind of happenings, right? All our recruiters, and right now we're in Perso Kelly, under the Perso Kelly umbrella. So we were a joint venture of Perso Holdings and Kelly Services. So we do a lot of recruitment. In 2020, the profits were okay. But in 2021, let me tell you, every single one of the units are exploding, right? They're meeting their targets like crazy. There are so many jobs that is open all around APAC, right? But they fail to find the right talent. So what happened? This result in a lot of companies willing to pay extra salaries, willing to give better bonuses. And if you're a recruiter or HR here in this place, right? What we're going to share with you later on might be quite interesting for you to take note. But if let's say you're an individual here who is looking for a job, all we can say is you have to be prepared, right, for what is coming in the last quarter of 2021 and in 2022 as market starts to recover, right? Some of the things that we will talk about later will help you in your job search and your job hunt in the coming probably 12, 15 months or so. Right. So I'm going to take a pause here, Risa, if there's any question, or you can, just probably help us to summarize this point.
All right, thank you. So I think this is a very important slide, yeah, because it shows like the trend that is happening. And I think maybe I'll try to explain also this in Indonesia. Ini kalau misalnya kita lihat di sini, salah satu tren yang menarik itu malah sekarang kalau misalnya dulu kita tahu tentang kutu loncat gitu ya, itu kan biasanya anak-anak milenial yang suka berubah-ubah ya. Apparently sekarang karena work environment yang agak stressful ya dengan perubahan pandemi ini, malah banyak director, managers dan eksekutif yang mau berpindah tempat gitu. Karena perubahan yang terjadi, mereka kurang bisa untuk beradaptasi dengan kebutuhan yang baru ini, dan akhirnya menjadi suatu beban dan stres gitu. Nah ini sepertinya sesuatu yang sebelumnya kita tidak antisipasi gitu. Dan yang menarik apa yang tadi dibicarakan Daryl, sekarang 2021 ini di APAC, di Perso Kelly itu setiap bulannya itu mencapai target. Jadi berarti ada banyak banget job search yang dilakukan oleh perusahaan-perusahaan di US, di China, dan sekarang mulai di Singapura. Nah ini sepertinya kalau kita ngeliat gini, ada sebuah tren dari yang mulai di China dan Singapura, China dan Amerika yang mungkin COVID-nya lebih terkendali, lalu ke Singapura yang sekarang sudah terkendali juga, yang mungkin nanti ke depannya akan berjalan ke Indonesia juga gitu, di mana sekarang kita masih proses PPKM yang belum selesai gitu ya, tapi ini sudah membaik gitu. There's a question, Daryl, maybe you can answer. What is the okay, let me try to summarize. Okay, maybe does artificial intelligence and technology is what is replacing people?
Yeah.
And if so, is there any suggestion for that, as well as tech adjustment for baby boomer and Gen Z?
Yeah. So I'm looking at the question. It's from Santo, right? Santo. Yeah. Okay, so what is interesting is later in the deck we will cover, right? So it's a very good question when you talk about things like artificial learning and machine learning. In fact, what we'll do is we will cover this question in your latest slide, right? And you will find it very, very useful, because what we thought is happening is not happening, right? So I will save this question for later. Yeah. So I see again from another question that talks about the trend of AI and all that, right? And baby boomer, Gen X. So let's talk about this later on. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
maybe you can go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So very, very good question. We will touch about that later on. Yeah. So of course, tonight we are actually going to talk about HR outlook, right? But not just for APAC in general. We want to look specifically at Indonesia. So in a couple of months earlier, there is this company called Workday, right? So Workday is a HR tech organization that is more like a technology provider, partnered up with HR resources online, right? So HR online is actually a platform where all the HR professionals come together, and they invited a whole panel of very senior leaders, right? And we're talking about like CHROs, HR directors, to come and discuss about the outlook of Indonesia. So what they did was they actually managed to find and came up with the conclusion of 5 challenges and 5 solutions, right, in regards to Indonesia, which I thought was quite interesting that we wanted to just shed some light with you guys today. Now, the first challenge, right, they talk about in Indonesia when it comes to talent is that the first priority right now is employee health and safety. Okay, so as we know in Indonesia, right, not all the industries can actually work from home. Okay, so this means that, industries like manufacturing and essential providers, right, they cannot work from home. So what happened is when they come to office, okay, they have to have split operations. You have your team 1, team 2, team A, team B, and they have to be seated at a distance. So this means that, rental cost is going to be the same, but then productivity is going to drop by half. Okay, what is even more of a concern is that because of COVID-19 intervention, say for example, they need to do testing, they need to do swab tests, right? And they, let's say for example, the companies or the employees may choose to buy medical insurance for their people. So all these are actually a heavy cost employers that are already working on very small margin. Right, when we talk about industries like manufacturing and essential providers. So one of the challenge immediately they face is the health and safety issue. Okay, and we all know, right, that over the last couple of weeks or the last months, we are seeing a surge of COVID cases in Indonesia. Very quickly, second one is the integration of technology. Okay, so when it comes to internet connectivity, that is something that is also of a problem. So if let's say we were to manage people, send them home to work from home, right? Internet strength is one. Second thing is access to equipment. So again, some more traditional organizations or industries do not have access or do not have the ability to put a laptop in everyone's hands, right? So that again is one of the concern. What is also a concern is that most people, right, and we saw the question just now asking about baby boomers and Gen X, right, they are very used to the process of using paper, right, and suddenly to have a very quick transition, it is not just uncomfortable to baby boomers and Gen X. To be honest, millennials face the same problem as well. Because the sudden switch is so fast, so drastic, right? Most of our employees, we realize, even in around APAC, right, not just Indonesia, cannot handle that fast transferring process to online, contactless or paperless. So it has proven to be a challenge. So that's challenge number 2 in Indonesia. Challenge number 3, right? Emotional fatigue from working from home. Okay, so when it was first announced that everybody can work from home, let me tell you, right, for the first couple of months, everybody was enjoying themselves, right? Everybody say that, you know what, I get to wake up late, I get to, end work at 6 o'clock and straight away, that's my family time. Okay, but we are seeing that after a few months, that novelty starts to wear off. Okay, what happened is people are working longer. They are getting very tired. There is no social interaction. And all these has led to things like depression, right? Where people feel isolated and engagement start to go down. And I love it, when HR Online wrote this article that says HR leaders agree that employees, don't need a sprinter spirit. Okay, they don't need you to run fast. They need you to run long, right? They need you to have a marathon mindset because this COVID situation is here to stay. Okay, and that is something that talent is facing. The problems in Indonesia HR leaders, as they were discussing, one of this problem, right, is very prevalent, and not just in Indonesia, it's all around APAC, but especially in Indonesia. Okay, the fourth one is talking about monitoring productivity and motivation. So again, why will managers choose to leave their jobs at this point in time, right? Why are managers looking to change companies? Well, the truth is because managers have limited capabilities in understanding how their people are feeling. Okay, so let's say, for example, if both of us are in an organization, right, and let's say Risa is my manager. Okay, now how can Risa manage me and know how I'm feeling? Okay, there is a lot of ways, right, that we need to, try to understand how people are feeling, and we need to be trained in a new way. Okay, and sadly, most managers do not have that capability to understand, because most managers, they are either promoted because they've been in a job for a very long time, or they are, promoted because they do very well in their daily tasks, right? So this means either you're promoted because of tenure or performance, resulting in the lack of management skills already. And now coupled with COVID, things become even more difficult, right? And the second part is because of the lack of human interaction. Even if I have certain tools, I have Zoom, I have Teams, Microsoft Teams, and I use these tools to try to understand you, to try to understand how my employees are feeling, right? It is not as effective. And again, we are not trained. And all these are actually posing talent challenges right now for Indonesia leaders. Okay. And the last one, okay, changing mindset towards technology. So I love the question, right, that Santo was asking earlier about how do you think if AI is going to take over technology or not? Well, the truth is, you know, many of us actually have this concept or this idea that integration or filtration of technology is very expensive, right? So we always say that, you know, my company is not ready to invest in technology, right? We are not ready. We are not ready. But after, you know, interviewing all these CHROs and these HR leaders in Indonesia, well, they say a different thing. They say that the leaders and the company is ready to invest money in Indonesia. It's the people that are not ready, right? It is the people that are not ready. So they feel that, yes, I can invest in technology, but my people will not be ready to use it. So that is something that they are finding it a challenge in Indonesia to change the mindset towards technology. That is not just the boomers or the Gen X people, right? But all of us as a workforce in Indonesia need to understand and we need to change, right? So I'm going to take a pause here and maybe Risa can summarize the 5 points.
All right, thank you. Oh my God, I'm nodding as you go along because I think this is what we are currently facing. Jadi ini tadi Daryl bilang ada kira-kira 5 challenges yang sekarang itu di face by HR leaders. Nggak hanya HR juga mungkin di sini leaders yang kadang-kadang peran HR-nya juga diambil oleh owner juga gitu. Yang pertama tadi health and safety ya, karena kita sekarang ini mau nggak mau kalau misalnya kita dengan adanya pandemi ini harus social distancing, safe distancing, akhirnya mau nggak mau itu kita meng-hire orang itu akhirnya space-nya jadi kurang gitu. Jadi ada cost tambahan yang harus di-face oleh companies untuk menyupport employee yang sama gitu. Number of employees yang sama. Ini katakanlah kita sudah mau offline semua gitu ya. Lalu yang kedua tadi ada integrasi teknologi dan tentunya juga regulasinya ya. Gimana kita ini memakai teknologi tersebut untuk mengintegrasikan dengan orang-orang kita. Lalu tadi yang ketiga yang mungkin paling penting adalah emosi. Gimana kita ini sekarang nggak hanya COVID ini cuma 1-2 bulan doang, tapi it's here to stay gitu. Jadi kayak misalnya kita sekarang ngerasa COVID sudah 1,5 tahun, mungkin nanti ada wave lain yang tiba-tiba nanti akan berdampak kepada perusahaan kita, kepada bisnis kita, yang akhirnya kita ini harus mencoba cara-cara baru dan bukan hanya kita ini mencoba dengan cepat, tetapi dengan perlahan yang steady, yang terus continuous gitu. Yang kalau misalnya kita bilang apa ya, berkesinambungan gitu. Jadi terus menerus nggak capek sebagai sebuah maraton gitu. Nah, dan ini monitoring, ini saya kerasa sendiri sih ini. Monitoring susah sekali, di mana kita itu mungkin mau mencoba dengan teknologi, dengan productivity tools yang bermacam-macam, tapi mau nggak mau itu sebuah, mungkin ini lumayan itu juga ya, lumayan kita hadapin semua ya. Monitoring jadi susah banget gitu, karena kita nggak ketemu langsung dengan orangnya, workspace-nya mungkin berpisah-pisah gitu ya. Kita nggak bisa langsung ketemu untuk berdiskusi tentang sesuatu. Akhirnya ada sebuah lag di mana kita itu apakah itu tanya oleh bawahan kita ataupun mungkin untuk memastikan proyek sesuatu itu jalan gitu. Dan ini yang kelima kayaknya yang saya sendiri tuh ngerasa benar banget. Nggak hanya teknologi itu kita ini bisa didapatkan dengan sekarang mungkin jauh lebih mudah daripada sebelumnya, tapi integrasi itu yang harus dilakukan oleh orang-orang itu yang menjadi sebuah masalah gitu. Bagaimana sekarang kita bisa membiasakan seluruh teman-teman kantor kita untuk menggunakan productivity tools yang sama, menggunakan project management tools yang sama, di mana sebelumnya mereka tidak terbiasa oleh hal itu gitu. Dan ini 5 challenge yang tadi disebutkan oleh Daryl. Alright. Nah ini so there's a question here. Let's look at it. If you are going to answer it in the slides, we can answer it later on. So here in Ricky, do you want to read it or I can read it for you as well?
Yeah. So Ricky, I think your question is asking about if there is any data on on let's say the needs of HR or production or collaboration application, right? So Ricky, the simple question is the simple answer is yes, right? There are many data on trends on the need of HR production or collaboration application at this point in time. When we talk about, let's say, for example, different tech, right, or different, let's say, for example, platforms for people to actually do collaborative work, there is a lot. I think the more important question, right, that we want to focus on is, are the people ready to use it or not? That is one. Second thing you want to also ask is, does the cost, or let's say, for example, the cost of building such technology, is it worth the company's investment? Because if, let's say, for example, if we're in the manufacturing industry and all that, right, and we still have to, physically be in office, physically, be present to do the work, then having this kind of technology to help us, stay engaged for the purpose of just staying engaged, right? Companies may not be able to justify for their bottom line and their P&L. Yeah, so I hope that helps. Yeah.
Sorry, Daryl, may I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason behind why I'm asking this is the usage of those kind of technologies is becoming essential, is becoming unaffordable, that every company, as you say, like COVID is here to stay.
Yeah.
And we are getting more digital, getting more online. Is it become a prerequisite for having a better collaboration, a better project management system, as Risa said? Is it unaffordable that yes, company must use those kind of applications, or it's okay if you had good engagement and using manual, the classic ways is okay? What do you think, Daryl? Thank you.
Yeah. But I think it's a very interesting question, right? Unfortunately, at this point in time, it is very hard for us to pinpoint. To be honest, because when this COVID situation just hit, a lot of big consulting firms, including ours, right, we don't have enough data, nor do we have enough historical trends to make sense of things. Of course, the best way or the easiest way is, we can always try. We can always try to make sure that engagement levels are up, right? But even with, let's say, using all these project management tools to make things easier, right? We realize that most of the time it still lies very much with the leaders or the managers, right? So what I'll do, Ricky, is later on, right? There is a segment that my previous company, Gallup, actually worked on the needs of the followers. Right, so I will share that with you later on, and with everybody else here. So you begin to see that actually technology is just a bridge, right? Ultimately, it's still the people. Yeah.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you.
Cool.
I think I really got what you were saying, because we've been trying Monday.com, right? And I think one of the things why it sort of got halted is because I myself am not consistently checking on it and consistently making my my team to update it every time. So in a way, since everyone is not used to it, it becomes it took us a while for us to get used to it. I think that's also your point as well.
Yeah, I think the problem is same with we have the technology, if nobody uses it, it's just useless apps.
And we already paid, so that's the thing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Daryl, there's another question. Let me translate it, and let's see if this you should answer this now or later on. So Ibu Listia here asks, so when the pandemic, when in this 1.5 year, when we are experiencing this pandemic situation, so her company, there's actually a lot of reduction in target. So when previously target, employees, everyone needs to achieve X target. Now it's like X minus 100, something like that. And she is afraid that this is causing a comfort zone for the employees. So how should we anticipate something like this so that people are not in this comfort zone, and they don't want to try the extra mile to actually innovate and do other things to improve the target?
I see. So the concern is worried that they will be stagnant, correct? They keep lowering the target, and then the targets get easier to meet, and once they meet, they just relax, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's a very interesting question. We will probably touch on that a little bit, right? Later on in the slides where we talk about the focus in Indonesia. Actually, the next thing we're going to talk about is talking about that as well. So maybe we will address that later.
Go ahead. Yep.
Right, cool. So again, to refresh everybody's memory, because I know it's quite late. Yeah, but I just want to say that, you know, these are something that, you know, the companies come together and the CHROs have identified 5 problems, right? 5 problems. But of course, it's not good for them to only talk about 5 problems. They also talk about 5 solutions, right? So we want to hear from these leaders, right? Yes, you have the problem. What are some of the solutions? Okay. Now, first, solutions. Okay, they say that communication is key. So very much like what you know, Pak Ricky and Risa was talking about, right? About communication. So what they did was, you know, they say that, you know, perhaps creating new normal employee handbooks, right? Continue to have town hall meetings, surveying employees, doing engagement surveys, checking on their health, you know, always having constant communication with your employees can help them to, you know, stay sane, right? Let them know that they're still part of the company cares for them, right? So that is one of the solutions they have given. Okay. At the same time, they also talk about maintaining human touch. Okay, compassion, trust, empathy, which we will also talk about later on, having a more data-centric kind of solution and lens to this. They also talk about how tech adoption is urgent, right, and necessary. So digitization, automation, remodeling of certain structures, create a company to become, you have seen this word many, many times, agile, right, become more agile. So they were even talking about, you know, in future, right, if you are a HR person, wow, you also need to come from math background, right? Next time you'll see HR who has maybe degree or masters in math or engineering. Why? Because they need to be fluent in the language of data and predictive analysis, right? So HR function, actually, what is interesting is in the past, right, among all the functions, if we talk about like 5 or 10 years ago, HR is not a very important function. So the function is, you know, led by the CHRO, and then the CHRO will make decisions. So among all the C-suite level, right, traditionally as an open secret, right, CHRO typically don't make as much as the COO, the CFOs, right, or the CEOs, obviously. So CHROs, you know, it's not at a very high level. But in the last 5 years, even before COVID hit, right, the role of HR has been increasing, and the requirements for HR has been very, very different, right? So HR is no longer just a functional role, but it has become a management decision role, right? So the CEOs will make decisions based on a HR knowledge, right? So HR has already becoming very important. So I'm not surprised, you know, when the CHROs in Indonesia said that, you know, in future, right, our HR team will not only look at operational HR, but they will need to actually be very fluent in predictive analysis, right? In other words, talking about leading indicators. Say, for example, if today my employees are not happy, okay, I can predict that they will not do well in their sales, right? If today my employees are you know, sick all the time, I can predict, right, that very soon they'll leave the organization, right? So this kind of predictive and analysis and understanding data, right, is very, very important for HR in the coming future, right? So it's not just so much about digitization using tech, but it's using the data, right, and understand how you can predict certain behaviors. This is something that is very crucial, right? Now let's move on. The fourth thing they talk about solutions from CHROs is that they need to be adaptive and anticipate for the future, right? So we talk about this thing called new normal skills. In Perso Kelly Consulting, we call them future skills, okay? And you realize that when we talk about future skills, for you know, Santo out there talking about machine learning, AI. Hey, look, you and me, we don't have to learn AI, okay? We don't have to be technology savvy. We don't have to learn Python, okay? That's the truth. We don't need to understand algorithms and 101010 binary code. No, right? But what we need to do is we need to understand data analytics, okay? We still need to have human-centric skills. We still need to have storytelling skills. We still need to sell, right? We still need to present and make sense, right? So what happened is right now they are equipping their internal L&D people, their leaders, their facilitators, their trainers, right, to understand digital methodologies, right? To make sure that, you know, if let's say we were to run an L&D course, the participants are engaged, right? What is the new way of training? What is the new way of doing things? Yeah, not so much that all of us have to go and become IT guys. No, that's not the future skills that we're talking about. So again, right, to summarize, yes, machine learning, digitization, it is a trend that is coming up. But for, let's say, myself and maybe some of us here who are vested in other skills like sales, like technology, or even like accounting, or we are like lawyers and all that, we don't have to quit our jobs and start learning IT, right? That's not who we are. That's not our interest. So we don't have to do that. But there are certain new normal skills that we need to surely pick up, right? And the last one, okay? One of the solution, right, is to evolve Indonesia as a talent engine. So again, this is building in-house learning academies. And I love this because in Perso Kelly Consulting, I've been working with companies throughout APAC region. And what we are doing is we are helping them step by step build learning academies. We are building digital learning houses. We are building LMS, learning management system. We are trying to, you know, work with different universities like INSTITUT, Harvard, or, you know, Risa here is also running a university. Work with them, right? Because they can then offer courses that supplements your real life industry topics, right? And this can actually help you to, you know, win certain projects, help you grow. Especially during this time in COVID, right? Investing in yourself is the best thing you can do. Education, you talk about preparing yourself, future skills, looking towards the future and understanding what, you know, you need to do well, so that when the trends start to come, right? So we always look at the US, sometimes we look at China, and when we look at these major countries and realize that, hey, look, they are having a talent crunch, right? Then suddenly we realize, oh, very soon, you know, it's hitting the APAC region. India, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, realize that, oh, our recruiters are doing so well. That means that they have a lot of business already, right? Then hopefully, right, hopefully, fingers crossed, it will start to cascade to countries like Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia as well, because the cycle is going to happen, right? It cannot be that in the neighboring countries or over in the US, everyone is doing so well and then it doesn't cascade down. Very unlikely. Right, so likelihood is, as companies accept the fact that COVID is here to stay, as individuals, the best thing we can do is to be prepared for it, right? So I'll take a pause here, and then, Lisa, you can just, take over.
Great, thank you. I think this might answer some of the previous question, and it's very interesting what you said. Jadi kalau teman-teman tadi ngelihat, tadi Daryl bilang yang pertama, kalau misalnya kita ini sedang mencoba untuk menindaklanjuti apa yang memaksimalkan keadaan sekarang. Nah, ini HR leaders dan juga teman-teman yang sekarang ini managing people, itu yang pertama, communication is key katanya. Yang penting itu ada sebuah komunikasi di mana kita itu masih bisa touch base dengan teman-teman tim kita. Jadi terasa ada sebuah hubungan gitu, nggak hanya kayak kita ini ketemu lewat digital saja, hanya mengerjakan pekerjaan saja lewat online, tapi tidak ada komunikasi real antara kita dan tim kita. Lalu yang kedua tadi berhubungan juga ya, mempunyai sebuah human touch gitu. Jadi ada sebuah koneksi terhadap satu dengan yang lain, dan itu merasakan apakah kita ini saling membantu, mempunyai sebuah emotional support satu sama lain. Jadi mempunyai that human touch. Lalu ada juga technology adoption, dan ini kayaknya ini yang menarik banget dari apa yang tadi Daryl bilang. Sekarang mungkin mau ada AI, ada machine learning, semuanya bisa digitize, tapi kita tidak perlu untuk semuanya sekarang jadi programmer gitu. Malah yang dibutuhkan adalah bagaimana kita make sense of the data. Jadi bagaimana kita ini bisa tahu apa yang harus dilakukan dengan data yang ada gitu. Dan nggak hanya ini diperlukan oleh business owners, oleh C-level people, tapi juga kepada orang-orang HR yang mungkin dulunya hanya training and recruitment, tapi sekarang perlu untuk tahu apa yang terjadi dalam perusahaan. Bisa punya feel-nya. Kalau sekarang orang-orang itu mengalami sebuah penurunan kinerja atau mereka ada sebuah environment yang kurang enak, apa yang nanti akan berimbas kepada perusahaan karena keadaan tersebut gitu. Karena balik lagi ya mau nggak mau kita ini semuanya terdampak oleh orang-orang yang ada dalam perusahaan kita gitu. Dan hasilnya pasti akan terreflek dari situ. Lalu tadi Daryl sempat bilang juga tentang future skills. Jadi apa saja yang kira-kira ini kita harus make sense of the data and analytics. Dan yang terakhir ini, gimana caranya kita ini mengimprove teman-teman kita, tim-tim kita menjadi sebuah talent engine. Jadi tahu tentang future skills yang dibutuhkan, yang kira-kira nanti harus diantisipasi, dan sekarang ini mempersiapkan. Dan ini Daryl yang menarik bilang ya, dia melihat trennya dari Amerika, dari China, dan itu sepertinya cycle-nya itu bermula dari negara-negara besar yang akhirnya masuk ke APEC region, yang masuk ke Asia, yang seperti Jepang, lalu Singapura, dan akhirnya menjalar ke kita-kita sini di Indonesia ataupun dari tempat lain. Dan ini yang kita harus antisipasi ke depannya. Okay, so do we want to answer some questions or do we want to, okay, let's answer some questions. So before, do you want to add what Bu Listia was asking? How can we actually go out from this, what is it, comfort zone, so that people are not in the comfort zone, they want to do more and they are excited about their work? I think that's pretty important.
Sorry, Bu, that one is next slide.
Okay, so that's next slide. Jadi Bu Listia nanti tunggu.
Okay.
Next slide. Okay, so there's a question in your experience. How do you manage the employees' mindset so that work from office is better than work from home? Coordination is faster and etc.
Okay, so in the latest slide, I have also shared some insights, but you know, I'll just do it now before I forget, right? Okay, now one of the study actually shows that, right, 80% of the employees, right, when they do the survey, say that office is a place where we build relationships. Okay, no longer a place where we do work, right? So this already tells us that you know, the mindset for people is changing. So you know, in the past, you know, office is a place where we do our work, we settle everything, and then we go home, we leave our laptops and our computers there, right? But right now, you know, what do people miss, right? So if we do some interviews and we have run focus group studies, we have talked to individuals and we say, what do you miss about the office? Okay, what is surprising? Actually not surprising, right? Nobody say that, oh, I miss doing work in the office because I miss sitting down on a chair, I miss my office chair, I miss, no. What they miss is they miss the, what they call water cooler talk, right? They miss the pantry talk, where they bump into two colleagues in the pantry and then they spend 30 minutes talking nonsense, right? Talking about their day, their family, that human interaction. They miss that. That is why when the survey was launched, asking people, what do you miss, right, about working from home or working in office, nobody said that, you know, office is a place for work. In fact, they all have acknowledged that work can be done anywhere, can be done virtually, can be done remotely. But what they miss about office is building relationships. So 80% said that, you know, in future, when I want to go to office, it is not for us to work, it is for us to build relationships. Right. So in Perso Kelly Consulting Singapore, right, what we also do and we implement in our team with May as well, right, is that we try to meet in the office once or twice a week. Now, the reason we meet is not because we only work 1 or 2 days a week, right? Obviously not. But we meet to kind of like build relationships, to find out how we are doing so that we can, you know, strengthen our relationship and become sane, not go crazy because of COVID. Right. So, Risa, anything you?
Very interesting. Ini sangat interesting ya. Jadi kayak katanya kalau di office itu adalah untuk building relationship, bukan untuk bekerja. Ini mindset mungkin yang kira-kira harus kita antisipasi juga ke depannya. Apakah ada pertanyaan lagi dari teman-teman atau mungkin ada yang mau?
Bu Risa?
Ya, boleh.
And Daryl,
Tarik ini.
I think I have to disagree with Reni. Like, I think it's like to, you know, lead to certain opinion that work from home is better than work from office, or work from office is better than work from home. I think that's I kind of smell that the CEO or the owner of the company have some agenda in that. So I think to continue that and to ask you, Daryl, is there any I don't know, a recommendation or like best practice on, is it a mix or like more into home and rather than in office? Because I love work from home. Certainly, I have 3 extra hours not being stuck in the traffic and not have to be awake in the, not yet morning. It's like 5 o'clock, to survive the Jakarta traffic. Have you ever survived Jakarta traffic, Daryl?
Oh, yes. I'm very scared when I go to Jakarta.
So,
I understand.
I have to disagree, but to settle this, but perhaps you can, I don't know, is there any studies on, I don't think better, but is there a mixture around work from home and work from office? Thank you.
Yeah. So, but Ricky, that's a very, very good sign, right? And obviously in countries like in Indonesia, in Jakarta, actually, the traffic is horrible. I can see the place, I can see the airport, but it takes me 45 minutes to get there. Yeah, so I totally feel you. So I guess maybe some of the statistics might be a bit biased towards APAC, right? And not so much in Indonesia. But what we have found out is, again, later I'll share in some of the insights, but I'll just talk about them now. One of the things that we talked about is hygiene factors. Okay, hygiene factors talking about salary, about pay, and flexibility used to be a hygiene factor, right? So we talk about remote working, all these, right? It's a good to have, right? It is not a must have. But because of COVID, the number 2 things, right, after salary, is flexibility, right? So recently we hire new staff in Singapore, all right? After we have talked about the pay, the next thing she asked me is, can I work from home? It is very real. It is very real. So yes, is there a golden ratio? I don't know, right? It is very hard to tell if there is like a 20% work from home, 50% work from home. But so far, we realized that to have engagement at least once a week, right? We are seeing that people still need to come to the office once a week for that relationship building, and rest of the time do their work at home or remotely. Some companies even go as far as to talk about work from anywhere, right? They have work from anywhere. So you can be in, let's say, Hawaii, right? And then doing work in Indonesia, right? So I don't know if we will ever come to that situation, but I think it's coming, right? We are progressing very quickly. In the past, the idea of remote working is something that many HR organizations want to implement, but nobody dared to do it. Until COVID hit, everybody is forced to do this, and we realize that it's working, right? But of course, with this comes its challenges like isolation, with this comes depression, burnout, and all these issues that we are still trying to figure out. Yeah, so I hope it gives at least a clarity instead of a direct answer. Yeah.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you.
Thank you for the insight. I think working from Hawaii is I only ever saw that in Silicon Valley, nowhere else. But now I think we're experiencing that kind of ordeal, almost.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, let's move on. I realize we a bit. I'm trying to be a bit mindful of time also. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Now, there is a focus, right, in 2021. So 3 things popped up in a recent Mercer Global Talent Trend Survey. Okay, they talk about 3 things. They talk about workforce restructuring. Okay? They talk about upskilling. They talk about enhancing employee experience. So these 3 were actually known as the top priorities for Indonesia firms in 2021. Okay, so over here, we can very much see that, okay, 49% of the companies plan to offer greater access to remote health and benefits. Now, this is very large compared to 36% of their global peers, right? So it's almost half the companies in Indonesia that is planning to actually take care of health, right? It's very incongruent or very aligned, right, with the previous research or the interviews with the CHROs. Okay. Second, Indonesia firms are rethinking benefits and talent proposition. So they are thinking, how can I inspire, right, people? How can I re-examine what is most relevant to people? Okay, and they are actually pretty forward-looking compared to their global peers, 65%. So right, so you can almost expect almost every company in Indonesia already thinking about benefits and value proposition. Right. So companies are also seeking to focus on targeted workforce, upskilling, and all this we have seen before, right? But what they want to do is they want to expand their talent and learning ecosystem. So again, right, for all my friends out here, you can see that 50% of the organizations in Indonesia are already thinking about the future skills, right? If you see here, 74% of them are thinking about talent pool. right? So very, very soon, we are going to experience in Indonesia what perhaps what US is experiencing right now, a shortage of talent. And right now, they are already thinking about all these things, which are very, very good signs and positive signs of COVID recovery, right? Lastly, leveraging on AI, okay? We talked about HR leaders and how they improve their analytical capabilities. Again, we have talked about, analytics, right? Understanding data, not mining data, okay? But understanding data, okay? And how he can be integrated with marketing strategies. And again, learning and skill acquisition. So you see, there is a lot of upskilling, there's a lot of restructuring, and there's a lot of employee experience. So these three things are the top priorities, and it remains pretty consistent, okay? Now, what is interesting is this. For skills-based talent, right, and this is spoken by the Director of Career Services in Mercer, Indonesia. It says for skills-based talent strategies to work, okay, you need to let the employee see that when you learn new skills, there is tangible reward. Okay, so when we talk about future skills, we talk about enrolling yourself in a university or going for L&D courses, right? You must realize that all these things can actually lead to promotion, okay? But only 1 in 10 employers have a program to reward skills in place, okay? So in other words, workforce restructuring is not as mature as we want it to be in Indonesia. Because when people go for training, they go and study and do their degree, they do their MBA, they go to universities again to upgrade themselves, they cannot understand how it will give them tangible rewards. So if you're a boss in this place or you're a leader in this place, right, what we want to encourage you is probably to think, right, how can going through learning programs, right, can help to reward these employees, right? So we need to think of a reward system. Right now in Perso Kelly Consulting, what we are trying to build with our tech team is something that allows people to do personalized learning pathways. Okay, so if today I'm a manager, right, and I want to be a director in 5 years' time, okay, what are the learning courses that I need to take that is specifically for me? Because I know that once I take the courses, I will have the right necessary skills, I will have the necessary insights for me to be promoted. Right? We need to see this kind of individual learning paths, right, that is very clear and charted out. And I was speaking to my IT guy. To do that, we need to do data mining, right? We need to have data. We need to have historical data. We have to have success stories that is already put in place so that it can show us directly what is the step to take for us to move forward, right? So I'm going to take a pause here and hand the time over to Lisa. Yeah.
Oh, this is very interesting. I feel like I'm learning and I want to try to implement this in Institute Asia, maybe. Oke, jadi tadi Daryl bilang beberapa poin ya yang penting. Kayaknya sekarang ini ke depannya apa yang mau difokusin di bisnis-bisnis di Indonesia, dan ini melalui survei yang dilakukan di Indonesia sudahan. Itu ada workforce restructuring, jadi merubah organisasi itu, jadi orang-orangnya dirubah, posisi-posisinya mungkin dirubah, mungkin ada new job title dalam perusahaan dan lain-lain. Lalu yang kedua adalah untuk upskilling, jadi untuk kita ini membantu teman-teman yang mungkin belum fasih dalam new teknologi, membaca data dan lain-lain untuk bisa mendapatkan skill tersebut. Jadi ada upskilling yang terjadi. Dan tentunya yang ketiga adalah enhancing employee experience. Gimana caranya kita itu bisa membuat tim kita untuk lebih merasa nyaman, untuk lebih merasakan benefit dari perusahaan melalui hal-hal yang dilakukan. Dan ini yang menarik sekali yang saya kira dari terakhir kali sebut ya. Kalau misalnya kita mau orang-orang di perusahaan kita, di tim kita untuk belajar skills baru, harus ada sebuah tangible reward yang didapatkan saat mereka mempelajari new skills. Gitu. Jadi harus ada sebuah benefit yang real, yang jelas saat mereka mendapatkan sebuah skill baru. Yang mungkin di sini future skills yang tadi disebutkan oleh Daryl. Alright, so should we answer some questions, or do you want to go over?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I see. Can I have the presentation? So this will be sent. Ini presentasinya bakal di-send ke teman-teman yang di S2. Nanti akan di-send oleh Bu Tere. Yang belum S2 boleh join S2 dan dikirimkan. Tapi enggak, nanti akan dikirimkan oleh Bu Tere ya. Jadi bisa kontak ke Bu Tere. All right, so the next question is how do we motivate employees right now from Ibu Vivin, seeing that the economic condition right now is making employees down and stressful, and it's very hard for them to actually grab their target?
Wow, this is a very, very good question, right? Risa, can we move on, and I will explain that as we go on, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So we can move on and answer the question.
Yeah, I think let's address it now, right? In the recent studies, right, Gallup actually did a study of what we call needs of followers. Okay, so many organizations or leadership school of thought, right, they actually focus on the leaders, right? They say that, okay, for you to be a good leader, you need to have certain skills. Okay, but this study is very interesting because they went to look at the needs of the followers. Okay, so to answer that question, right, of whether how to motivate the people and all that, you need to understand what your people need, right? And in a very unpredictable times, this research, right, or this particular article says that we need 4 things. You need trust, compassion, stability, and hope, right? Trust, compassion, stability, and hope. These are the 4 ingredients, right, that your people are looking out for. So if you want them to work for you, you want them to be motivated, you need to know what are their needs, right? You meet their needs and they will take care of you. Take care of your people, they'll take care of you. Right. So very quickly, the first thing that we talk about in this article is trust. Okay. So basically what is needed for you, right, if you're a manager in this place, I'm assuming, is that you need to be predictable, right? So people need you to be consistent in your character, right? You have to say something and mean something, right? For us, right, some of the advice that we have given leaders that and I've seen, certain leaders that will choose to come into office every single day, even though they don't have to, right? They want to instill a sense of predictability that I'm always here, I'm always around, right? And this will build trust. Okay, so the followers don't need you to predict the future. Nobody can predict the future, right? But they need to be able to predict what you're going to do, right? They need that kind of stability in a time where there is no stability at all. Okay. The second thing is compassion. Okay. So again, you don't have to be best friends with your boss, right? But basically, they need to know that as a manager, the manager cares for them. Okay. So you can have different things like daily check-ins. You can have different policies. But people want to know that you care. You care about their family, you care about their future. Over here in Perso Kelly Consulting, one of our services that we provide is outplacement support, right? So when companies go through a retrenchment process, we are always there to make sure that our clients are well taken care of, right? And the first thing we always tell all these managers is that, you need to make sure that those people that you are choosing to retain, right? They need to genuinely think that you care for them. They need to know that you care, right? So personally, right, I think that as a manager, you need to want to be a manager, right? You need to care for people. If you are a very strong individual player with no heart, no love for people, then perhaps it's better that we move towards a strategist role or a specialist role, right? Instead of managing people, you can be the best salesman. And in today's age, right, being the best salesman may earn you more than a sales manager, right? Or being a best tech guy may earn you more than a tech manager, right? So there are different ways for you to move. But basically, compassion, wanting to care for people is an essential ingredient, right? According to this article. Okay, stability as well. So they need to know that, basically there is a practical stability and there is a psychological stability. So practical stability means that my company won't close down tomorrow, right? We are going to be around for the long haul. Okay, psychology stability is that I won't fire you, right? Even though we are going through hard times, I'll be here for you. Because if your staff think that anytime, you are going to close shop and run away, how many of them are willing to meet their targets, right? They are only going to think short term, right? So as a leader or as a manager, if we tell our people, hey, look, we are here for the long time period. And even though maybe you don't meet your numbers now, it's okay, right? We are lowering the standard so that all of you can have that kind of stability, know that you still meet your target. And maybe when the economy recovers and our deals get larger, right, we can grow our business together. They want to hear this kind of thing, right? They want to have that psychological stability. And when you share your P&L, your profit and loss statement, there is also financial stability in the organization, right? And very last one, it talks about hope. So when they look into the future of your company, they can see a future. right? They can see a bright future that this company is going to grow. Not so much that, when I look at the company, wow, I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years' time, right? So they need to have that kind of hope and that trust. So if we can meet the needs of our followers at this time, okay, whether is it to lower your standard for a period of time because of COVID and then slowly increase, or is it to motivate them to do better or work harder? I think we need to first understand their perspective and not so much only look at the company's perspective, right? Understanding that, oh, okay, these are their needs. If we take care of them, then they will take care of us, right? So I'll take a pause here. I hand this time over to Lisa.
Alright, thank you Daryl. Jadi ini tadi menarik ya, ditunjukkan bahwa di sini dari research-nya Gallup, jadi perusahaan research besar yang mungkin teman-teman juga pernah dengar ya tentang Gallup Strength Base. Dan ini menunjukkan setelah kita, atau mungkin bukan setelah ya, saat kita melewati masa COVID ini dan juga setelahnya, apa yang dibutuhkan gitu. Dan dia bilang kalau misalnya untuk employees dan untuk tim kita, apa yang dibutuhkan satu itu adalah trust, memberikan sebuah kepercayaan, mungkin dalam pembelajaran mereka saat mereka harus beradaptasi ya. Lalu memberikan sebuah stabilitas di situ juga. Jadi ada sebuah kepercayaan yang diberikan kepada tim kita. Yang kedua tadi Daryl sempat bilang mengenai compassion, jadi memberikan bahasa Indonesianya mungkin lebih ke perlindungan, perhatian gitu ya. Jadi kita memberikan sebuah perhatian kepada tim kita bahwa kita ini semua sama-sama melewati masa yang susah. Kita mari bersama-sama melewati masa ini bersama-sama. Misalkan Anda mengalami sebuah kesulitan, kami juga akan menyupport sesuatu hal yang seperti itu, yang menunjukkan sebuah care, menunjukkan perhatian. Lalu yang ketiga, Daryl bilang mengenai stabilitas. Jadi ada sebuah stabilitas di mana kita itu tentunya apa yang terjadi ke depannya itu kita berusaha untuk sama-sama menjalani ini bersama-sama. Dan tadi yang Daryl bilang, meskipun targetnya tahun ini tidak tercapai, kita sama-sama tidak apa-apa lowering the target. Mungkin ini juga menjawab pertanyaan tadi Bu Vivin ya. Mungkin lowering the target now, tapi juga ada informasi bahwa ya ini kita ke depannya untuk perusahaan bersama-sama harus lebih besar. Dan mungkin sekarang kita bisa membantu teman-teman, nanti ke depannya saat ekonomi lebih baik, itu kita akan menaikkan target kembali dan juga mengemush teman-teman untuk bekerja lebih baik. Jadi ada sebuah stability di situ. Jadi mereka tidak takut apakah akan dipecat, apakah hal-hal lain akan terjadi kepada mereka di masa-masa yang sudah sulit ini. Lalu yang terakhir untuk hope. Jadi hope itu mempunyai harapan ya, sebuah harapan ke depannya itu bagaimana dalam keadaan yang tidak enak di Indonesia sekarang, kita baru PPKM, ke depannya kita akan lebih baik gitu. Jadi suatu pembicaraan, suatu mungkin motivasi juga bahwa ke depannya kita akan lebih baik dari sekarang, kita akan melewati masa ini dengan oke, dan ini kita sama-sama menuju masa depan yang lebih baik. Jadi kira-kira seperti itu. So I was telling them as well that I think this answers Bu Vivin's question. How can we actually, how do you say it? Let people be okay with the current lower target, but also expect more in the future. I think that's what we want.
Yeah.
So if you want to add on to that.
No, yeah, I think we're good. I saw this very interesting question, right? By Raphael, and it says, when and how pandemic stop so that life, normal life will be back, right? What talents are needed? So again, just to address that, right? We don't know how the pandemic will stop, right? And how normal life will be. Some, research is saying at least 3 more years. Others say that, we may have to live with this for quite long, right? But for sure, as we begin to discuss future skills, which we will share with you later on, from our Personal Kelly consulting perspective, you will be able to see some of the future skills that we think will be necessary in future, because at this point of time, nobody can predict what kind of future skills we need. Yeah, so I will move on, Risa.
All right, move on. I think this is your last part, right? So
yeah.
Okay, then we can answer.
Yeah, so over here, right, it's interesting because we look at the new decade of employee experience. Now, this is very interesting because remember, according to Mercer's research, right, this is about 30%, right? This is one of the top 3 things that Indonesia firms should look out for. Okay, now the new employee experience is going to be very different. So again, I think just now Pak Ricky was talking about, what is the golden ratio and all that. Every company will be very different depending on industry and all that. But what is going to happen for sure, right, is going to be a blend of flexibility at the same time structure. Okay, so just now we talked about one of the things that talks about job satisfaction, right? Hygiene factors. Okay, satisfaction is hygiene factors. Number one, salary. Number two, can I work from home, right? Remote working is number two. Okay, now working remote means employees can work anywhere and they have that flexibility. So what happened is it can result in ability to manage stress. Okay, so they can have higher work-life balance because you don't have to travel and get stuck and jam in Jakarta, right? Overall, increasing satisfaction at work. But there has to be some kind of structure as well, right? So structure in a sense, it could be perhaps having the same kind of KPIs, right? Having the same hours, having the same, let's say, for example, components and targets that you still need to meet. Companies will still have to meet their P&L and their bottom line, but there can be flexibility around it, right? Some of the flexi working could be, I can start at a later time and then I can finish at a later time. Or I can start earlier and finish earlier because let's say, for example, I have children at home, right? I need to bring them to childcare, right? All these things are starting to be one of the things that determine job satisfaction apart from just salary alone. So very, very important. This has never come out in the past before as a must-have. Right now, it's a must-have. Yeah. So moving on. Digital experience is also now part of the employee experience. So again, this one is something we talked about. 80% see that office is a place where, we want to conduct collaboration, right? And attend meetings to build relationship, camaraderie, right? No longer just a place where I come and do my work and go home. Okay. Now, according to another forum and Pulse, it says that with this, companies who invest in digital infrastructure, right, like a Workday and all that, can potentially see higher productivity, sense of belonging, right? So they feel that they belong, they know that the company is doing well, there is digitalization to help them get their work done. And then it also helps them manage stress and anxiety over 5 times, right? So again, if you're a business owner or a manager here in this place, we should always consider in investing in digital infrastructure. Let it not be too complex, let it be something that people can still manage and learn. And not discriminate that, perhaps only the millennials or the Gen Z people can pick it up very quickly, and then let's say the boomers or the Gen X will take a slower time. I don't think that should be the case. In fact, moving forward, we should see, at least in my stand, right, employee experience as a whole, right, understanding the whole fundamental that everybody is perhaps in the same frame of mind during this period of time. Yeah. So this is very quickly and to summarize, right, these are just our idea, Personal Kelly Consulting's idea of what we mean by necessary skills for the next decade, right? So again, you realize that every company will have their own sort of thinking and nobody can prove anything yet because it's so new, right? But future skills and necessary skills for the next 10 years, 20 years, what we have seen that is basically quite, congruent, right? Things like design thinking, right? Design thinking, very, very important, right? Storytelling skills, collaboration skills, okay? Emotional resilience, okay? Used to not matter so much, but right now, being resilient is very important, right? So this is one of our bestseller courses, and I believe, in Indonesia, you'll find many good schools or talks that will talk about resilience and even storytelling, collaboration. Curiosity is another one, right? And lastly, personal branding. So when we talk about personal branding, it can also include things like digital literacy, like LinkedIn, right? That my teammate May is pretty skilled at, right? So personal branding, digital literacy, and all these, right? So while we need to understand how digitization works, we need to make sense of data, we need to understand the trends and all that. It doesn't mean that we have to sit behind a computer and learn Python, right? And learn machine learning and AI or even data mining. I don't think we have to, but we need to understand the concept and we need to make sense of things. Yeah. So Risa, back to you. Yeah.
I'm still in mute. All right, so thank you. I think this part is also what people are trying to look forward to. Tadi Daryl sempat bilang beberapa hal ya. Kalau kedepannya itu gimana sih kira-kira apa yang harus kita lakukan sebagai perusahaan? Lalu apa skill-skill apa yang dibutuhkan oleh employees kita? Kalau tadi Daryl sempat bilang akan ada flexibility and structure. Jadi gimana caranya kita itu ke depannya lebih bisa membantu manage stress. Lalu kita bisa work-life balance dan juga overall satisfaction about work. Jadi gimana kita ini merasa puas dengan pekerjaan kita. Dan ini katanya orang-orang yang mau mengintegrasi digital skills, digital technology itu trying untuk mencapai hal-hal tersebut. Lalu apa yang tadi sempat bilang juga, apa yang perlu kita perhatikan ini adalah experience dari employee itu, dari tim kita secara keseluruhan, nggak hanya dilihat dari satunya doang, nggak hanya dilihat produktivitasnya doang, nggak hanya dilihat dari stresnya doang, tapi secara overall bagaimana experience sebagai employee itu gitu dalam sebuah perusahaan. Dan itu yang sekarang HR manager C-level position yang sekarang kita itu perlu lihat dalam tim kita untuk memastikan mereka perform dengan baik juga gitu. Nah, dan ini tadi skill-skills yang Daryl sempat bilang, ada design thinking, storytelling, collaboration, emotional resilience, jadi gimana kita pantang menyerah ya. Sebuah curiosity, jadi mau tahu lebih, dan juga personal branding. Tapi tadi sempat Daryl bilang, ini adalah sebuah beberapa hal yang diprediksi oleh Personal Kelly, tapi ya tentunya semakin kita maju teknologinya akan semakin berubah juga, dan kira-kira ini yang dibutuhkan ke depannya. Gitu. Alright, so do you have any more things to add, Daryl?
I think all I want to say is, guys, if you have any questions and all that, we're very happy to connect with you. We believe that the world is getting smaller in a way, right? So we want to hear from you. We can have a discussion. We can also see how we can help you in the coming future, right? But it's true, I love what this future forum executive leader Brian was talking about, and he said that the pandemic has changed the way that we are doing things, right? So right now, companies are looking to attract and retain top talent, must look at a new way of working. A flexible model fundamentally reimagines not just where, but how people want to work, right? So digitization is a platform or vehicle for us to begin to imagine how the new workforce is going to be like, right? So it's not going to go back into pre-pandemic, right? Just like myself, right? Some of my beliefs is that perhaps, moving forward, some industries might die off. My belief is things like, business travels will not be as prominent anymore. That is very sad because I like to go to Indonesia, right? But it's not going to be as prevalent. And perhaps, working in an office 5 days a week is going to start to become a bit distant. Yeah, so there are companies right now even offering 4 days work week, right? 3 days work week as long as you hit your KPIs, virtual working, remote working, virtual teams even, So there is a concept that we do in Personal Kelly as well, where we hire people, let's say, for example, in different countries to work remotely for a country in your own region. So all these new concepts and new ideas are happening already. Yeah.
All right. And I think that answers also the question from Rafael, right? Perhaps we are not going to go back to the normal life we had back then, but it's going to be something different and perhaps more exciting. Okay, let's answer some questions if that's all right. Okay, so there's from Pak Iwan, I don't think my online employee now even look at the objectives duty. They're always asking questions about assignments and submitting assignments in the wrong format. Need more than digital literacy for exercises our employee to be face his or her duty. This is the real life for employees now, maybe in Indonesia especially. How should we face that?
Yeah, I think Iwan, this is a real concern, right? I think maybe not just in Indonesia. Again, it boils back to the question of let's say, for example, when we have things like digitization, and in your case, it's submission of assignments, right? How ready are our people to actually embrace this technology, right? So again, it is really perhaps educating them and letting them know that this might be the way forward anymore. The way of let's say submitting assignments will be this new format, right? So perhaps I'm guessing that last time it used to be a lot more manual. Right now we're going digital, and probably people need time to change, right? Probably they are in the learning process as fast, not as efficient. We need to give them time. Yeah.
Pak Ivan, if you want to open your mic, it's also fine. If you want to explain your condition, but I think it is happening right now in Indonesia. I think many people are not ready yet, whether it's the facility, like having the right laptop, right, to just do everything productively, or like having the internet connection that is not being bothered by laggy internet connection in Indonesia. And I think that's one of the things that we are facing, and I think something that we need to work on, right? So I don't know if you have any suggestion on that, because Singapore seems to be okay about that.
Yeah, I think we have our own set of problems. So I think internet connection in Singapore is relatively not an issue. Perhaps the adoption of digitalization for some companies might still be an issue, right? Some of our clients may still prefer face-to-face meetings, but because of vaccination status and the pandemic and all that, it might still be a bit tough and challenging, especially for, let's say, industries that have never used a laptop before, right? Let's say, for example, in a car manufacturing industry, right? How are you going to do Zoom without going to the factory, right? Sometimes it's just not possible. And yeah, a lot of all these things is something that the people have to evolve and learn.
Great. There's a raised hand. Do you mind opening your mic, Pak Vincent?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hello, Pak. Yes, we can.
Yes. Okay. Hi, Daryl. Yeah, thanks for your presentation. It's very amazing. You brought a lot of insight for us here. I'm very interested in the new way of working. It's going to be hybrid. Do you believe that in the future, this hybrid working of system is going to evolve the work itself? And as well, I read a newspaper around a month ago. There is a news was saying that majority of the worker, of the employees, they tend to have, let's say, a smaller salary. They prefer to have a smaller salary rather going back to work in the old way. They don't want to work, let's say, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
How do you see this in the future, let's say, for Asian countries, especially for Indonesia? Thank you, Daryl.
Yeah. So Pak Vincent, I think there are a couple of ways to look at this, right? First is what we call the rise of the gig economy. So companies like ourselves, right, are realizing that primarily focusing on the B2B market has to change, right? And people are more going towards the concept of B2C, C2C, peer-to-peer businesses, right? And I think that could be one of the reasons why people are realizing that there are many other ways to probably survive, right? If I want to choose to work virtually or not. Second way of seeing this is basically like what we explained earlier, right? That they perhaps want some kind of balance in their life. Again, when we look at satisfaction survey, we talk about salary, number one, but a close second, I believe, right, is talking about flexibility and virtual working. So yes, people are choosing some, right, may even put flexibility instead of going back to office every single day. Yes, it's here to stay, and that will probably shift us to a space where we could probably all eventually, right, look at a B2C business where it is more contractual based, where things are more fast paced, employment terms are shorter. That is also one possibility. For this current period, right, I think it's very hard for any consulting firms to put a finger and say that, oh, this is going to happen in future. But what we are seeing for certain trends are that perhaps, moving forward, everything is going to be more project-based. People are going to work when they want to work in a very more what we call gig economy kind of working style.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Daryl.
No problem, Pak. Yeah.
Thank you for the question, also Pak Vincent, and for the answer.
Thank you, Bu Risa.
Pak Rafael stated some interesting facts. Latest data from McKinsey, there's prediction that Q4 2022 is the fastest scenario in solving global COVID-19. Very Hopefully it's faster than that, hopefully. But I think his question is that, yeah, how are we going to face this? And he also stated a question like, what is the potential collaboration among Indonesia and Singapore?
Yeah, so I think the trend from McKinsey's prediction, and anyway, every company has their own prediction, right, regarding COVID, and how it's going to be resolved. Like I mentioned earlier, some companies are looking at 2023, 2024. Reason is because of the production of the vaccines. Probably they're saying that we probably have to have a third booster, right, a third shot, and all that, right, reaching into what we call endemic pandemic. Right, so endemic, pandemic, collaboration wise and all that, right, it's going to be very virtual teams already. So we are already seeing, let's say in Perso Kelly itself, right, in our sister company that does recruitment, we are seeing, let's say, for example, companies that want to set up a HQ in, let's say, Singapore, for example, and they are looking to, let's say, hire 500 people. But then because of the talent crunch we have in Singapore, especially in, let's say, the engineering sector or the IT sector, it requires us to then perhaps hire talents from India, China, Indonesia, and bring everybody together, right? So this kind of collaboration has already been happening, right? We are seeing a lot of projects where we are doing virtual hiring, and then they are working virtually, but they're actually getting the salary or the compensation and benefits from the local country as well. Yeah, so this kind of collaboration, I believe, is here to stay and is going to grow.
And I think this also what you mentioned, right? The world is somehow getting smaller. Everything is more connected now. It feels like you are in Malang right now. We are in the same room. All right. There's a question also. There's actually some questions. Okay, this is from Pak Santo. If the leader or manager seems so introverted, doesn't like to communicate publicly and openly, only talk when they are being asked, how should we change the situation, especially now in this time, right? How to deal with such a leader?
Yeah, so I guess this is a very interesting question, because the truth is not all leaders have to be extroverts, right? At least personally, having studied leadership, and even doing my research when it comes to my doctoral study in leadership, I don't believe that a leader has to be in a particular manner, right? I don't think that leaders all of them have to be very extrovert. Communication, when you talk about communicate publicly and openly, unless they're at a C-suite level where they have to stand in front of people and do town halls, right? If not, a leader these days or manager, right, can be somebody who manage maybe 3 or 4 people. And if they're very good at one-to-one, as long as the needs of the followers are met, trust, compassion, stability, and hope, right? The leader is able to instill this kind of sense of belonging and this kind of engagement, and this result in the employees doing well, right? I think it's a good leader, because your job is to make sure that the employees feel safe, right? They feel that they are in an environment where they can perform. Another role of the leader that we have seen involved because of COVID is that managers are starting to become a bridge between the management and their own teammates, right? So a manager will always have to be close to the senior management to understand and hear about the current company's direction, company's feedback, and then feed it back to the teammates. So in this way, right, there is a congruent, or there is a kind of alignment, right? Because the senior leaders obviously cannot talk to all the staff, right? So if such leader is able to then produce good P&L, a good leader is able to then receive information from the top management regarding vision, regarding let's say vision and where the company is going, and then properly communicate it to the person, maybe not in an extroverted way, but one-to-one, right? Then I think the manager might be a good manager. Yeah.
Well, okay, and perhaps this is what he actually mentioned about Santo. The person is actually very good at what he's doing and very passionate about it. Yeah, but it's just that it's hard, perhaps now in this kind of times, right, to meet and just like discuss things.
Yeah. So Risa, there is one thing, right, that we realized from the pandemic is that managers, okay, again, this is a very biased view, right? But managers need to have coaching skills, right? Managers need to be coaches. In the recent 1 year or 2 years, one of the most popular courses that I've seen being sold is Manager as a Coach program, right? Everybody is talking about how managers cannot just have managerial skills, but they need to have coaching skills, right? An example will be, let's say this manager is very good in IT, right? So he's a individual performer. Then suddenly, he get promoted because of his good skills. Ultimately, he or she needs to be able to understand that to be a good manager doesn't mean that you have to be good in IT. You can be very bad at IT, but be a very good IT manager because you know people's skills. And one of the most essential people skills in this case is really understanding how to coach, right? Asking the right questions, bringing out people's potential, helping people to see blind spots. These are all skills of coaches. And that is why managers have to now take on the very difficult role, managing P&L, talking to senior management, meeting your team's target, and now you also have to be a coach. Yeah. Yeah, so you might want to consider, for those of you who are managers, right? Is it really worth it?
Neither raise of benefits and compensation.
Yeah.
Jadi itu tadi Pak, apa kedepannya mungkin yaitu yang kita butuhkan nggak hanya manage P&L doang, tapi juga coaching, bertanya the right question ya, tanya hal yang tepat.
Lisa and Daryl, sorry,
Go ahead.
I have some testimony on that coaching. Can I share? Actually, in our company is mining company, and we are quite authoritative and quite structured. And the old ways of the leaders is like telling, directing. Then luckily I'm become part of a coaching culture. Then we invite professional coaches to coach the leaders. Then they feel, oh, so this is coaching, and we teach them, we give them certification and so on. After like 3 years, we having a survey, and the employee, not all of them, the critical ones, they said they have more psychological safety, and they have more courage into telling, into sharing ideas, conversation to their boss, and everything is like everything changes now. Can you imagine, we are a mining company and we embrace agile? That's like, wow. Perhaps IT companies, agile is so common, but in mining company, we even make our own center of excellence, R&D division, and so on and so on. We even in some point, our CEO invite us to Pizza e Bira, and they say, I am stupid. You are more smarter than me. Please help this company. Help me. If you are the CEO, what you will do? Then everybody, the managers, the senior managers, like having those forum group discussion and so on, is so lively. And since then, everything changes, and we're having no difficulty at all, and in employee retention and so on. Yes, coaching is one among a good silver bullet for this era and for retaining employee. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Pak Ricky. It's really heartening to hear these stories, right? Because to be honest, when we talk about coaching, that is like maybe 10, 20 years ago, coaching was only meant for the elites, right? It is only meant for the best of the best people, right? But nowadays, coaching is becoming very essential. It's becoming very available for everybody. So, to those in this call, right, I really hope that you can find yourself a good coach. Again, investing in yourself is the best, right? Have a coach, go for education, prepare yourself for what's coming up. Yeah, thank you so much, Pak.
That's very great experience and sharing. Perhaps other people can also follow your example. There's actually a quick question here in Indonesian, and I want to perhaps ask this to you from Budistia. Why is storytelling a future skill that is needed?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, right? So when we talk about future skills, you realize that we can look at two components. One is the data analytics of understanding a certain, let's say, for example, reading trends, understanding data in digital infrastructures. Second one is looking more towards soft skills, right? Soft skills, and that may or may not include things like design thinking and presentation skills and storytelling, right? So understanding storytelling is a very essential soft skills because it is part of what we call communication, right? At the same time, it is also a way for us to really articulate our beliefs. Moving forward, right, especially if you're looking towards a sales component or you're looking towards, let's say, moving towards to leadership or management, right? Having the ability to break down certain, let's say, for example, certain analogy, right? Piecing information together to create a vibrant, captivating, visionary message is really the art of storytelling. So personally, I do believe in storytelling, but it is a future skills because it falls under the soft skills component.
And I think this also is needed for our LinkedIn, our social media, and perhaps May, you can also add to that how storytelling is perhaps important. Jadi tadi bilang katanya untuk bercerita, untuk lebih apa ya, menambah insight dari orang lain gitu, Bu Listia. Mungkin ini May, you can have the floor.
Thank you, Risa. So I'm not sure how many of you are active on LinkedIn, but we know that LinkedIn is a professional platform. However, if you pay attention to the feeds or the content, we don't usually write professionally on our post to garner viewers or even engagement. So the art of storytelling will attract people to look at your posts and what you want to share with the world. It could be about your business. It could be on personal branding, which may lead to your corporate branding. So to add on to what Daryl has to share on storytelling, I think LinkedIn is the platform where it will put your storytelling skills to use for personal as well as professional branding.
And I think it's May was sharing to me earlier a few days ago actually how different posts with different kind of engagement can actually result in very different results, right? We can actually find leads from like simple simple storytelling, simple ways to engage with people, and I think that's one thing that will be needed for sales, marketing, and touch points to our customers.
Of course. So if you are looking on at LinkedIn and you're wondering how to get like-minded people or professionals to view your posts or to have partnership with you, then authenticity, right, is the keyword to storytelling, right? Add on to what Risa mentioned. So you know that LinkedIn has this thing called Sales Navigator, right? You have to pay for it. So if you are looking into personal branding or corporate branding, without using Sales Navigator, you can still garner that kind of engagement that you want to reach out to by being authentic about what you are passionate about or what you think is positive to share in this pandemic where everyone is going through very, very similar circumstances. That will pull the heartstrings.
Great, thank you. And perhaps this is the last question before we end this. So this is also from Bu Listia, right, relating to our conversation. Is employee experience can employee experience be regarded as a component in compensation and benefits when you are attracting new talents, and how to phrase that?
Okay. Yeah. I think when we talk about employee experience, right? You want to look at what kind of experience that you're talking about. So you have the engagement component. At the same time, you also have the compensation and benefits component that falls under satisfaction or hygiene factors. When we talk about compensation and benefits, right, we are talking about hygiene factors. Things like pay, things like flexibility, all these factors, you have to meet them at the base level, right? So if you want to talk about engagement, you want people to go the extra mile, you want to talk about things like satisfaction and all that, right? You have to understand from a perspective that experience is a very, very large word, right? And compensation and benefits fall under experience, under what we call the hygiene factors. So yes, but if we want to look at employee experience as a whole, right, talking about engaging them, then again, most of the time, right, 70% of engagement actually lies with the manager. So again, it's the manager's role. But if the manager is good, right, and your experience is good, your engagement is high, but you don't have the satisfaction factor, you underpay your staff, right? You don't give them leave, you don't give them off days. Then your experience is not going to be fantastic. It's going to be a short period of time before another company comes along, give them a higher pay, and you just leave. Yeah, so that's something we need to take note of.
Ya, jadi gitu ya Bu Lisya, ini tentunya penting, tapi itu balik lagi gimana experience-nya, terutama manajernya yang nanti akhirnya katanya 70% itu malah dari experience employee itu dari manajernya gitu. Oke, jadi seperti itu. I think that is it. We are nearing our closing time. So maybe if you have any last statements before you go, Daryl, thank you very much, and also May for coming here and giving us your data and insights.
Yeah, just one thing, right? Guys, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and reach out to May as well. If you want to understand the art of storytelling, right? In my opinion, May does it very, very well because she understands the balance between business and relations, right? So she tells a lot of stories. I remember yesterday or 2 days ago, May was talking about the weather, right? How can the weather, talking about the rainy weather, garner thousands and thousands of likes and views, thousands of views? I really don't understand, right? So it is something that is part of digital branding that we slowly build up, right? So add May on LinkedIn, look at her posts, right? Look at, how there is a combination of serious work stuff in relation to things that are more fun, right? So she brand herself in a very professional way that ultimately can lead to business. But I think she do it because she wants to.
So maybe May and Daryl, you can type in your LinkedIn. That will be great. The name. And Daryl, you need some personal branding so that we don't mistaken you for another Daryl, right?
Yeah.
And I think one thing that I learned from talking to May as well is like you can garner leads and get clients from LinkedIn. And I think that's what people actually want to, right, in the future. All right, so Bu Tere actually reminded me to take pictures. So let's take picture together. If you're all okay.
Pak Tanadi has something to say, right?
Yeah, there's also Pak Tanadi here before. Okay, maybe we can go with Pak Tanadi first closing, and then we can take pictures together.
Okay, thank you Daryl, thank you May, thank you Risa. Jadi I'll talk in Indonesian. Jadi terima kasih banget hari ini. Jadi saya tadi pagi bangun, alarm saya 4:30, jadi 4:30 bangun di San Francisco, dan saya merasa, bangun musik malam gitu ya. Jadi sekarang ini yang menarik adalah saya di sini juga bisa ngajar, saya di sini juga bisa kut-kut cari uang gitu ya, karena bekerja. Yang menarik dalam dunia baru ini semuanya berubah. Jadi teman-teman sekalian, terima kasih juga sudah hadir pada hari ini, menunjukkan bahwa teman-teman mau belajar lagi gitu. Saya sebetulnya kaget dengan S2 online kita, di mana banyak orang-orang hebat yang ikut, yang seharusnya sudah overqualified untuk ikut di dalam kelas kita, termasuk seperti Ricky, Santo, Pak Sugeng, Pak Vincent, Aristo ya. Semua ikut lagi. Menurut saya itu menunjukkan bahwa mereka yang sudah hebat pun itu mau belajar lagi gitu ya. Katanya, Pak, saya tidak butuh S2-nya, Pak, saya sudah S2 gitu ya. Jadi tapi saya ingin untuk belajar lagi sesuatu yang baru. Jadi the experience of learning, I think now is the key factor that we can do especially during the pandemic, when we have more time, more flexibility to implement whatever we want. Jadi contohnya saya yakin dalam setahun setengah ini saya bekerja lebih berat daripada sebelumnya. Saya membaca lebih banyak dan saya berbagi lebih banyak juga. Saya menjadi sedikit banyak lebih produktif ya. Menurut saya dunia kita setengah tahun lagi, setahun lagi, 2 tahun lagi itu akan berbeda jauh dengan masa lalu kita. Ya, dan mereka yang sekarang ditinggal oleh dunia ini harus siap untuk maju ke dalam dunia baru. Ya, salah satu sarana ya kita belajar lagi gitu, baik mulai melihat video lagi. Saya saat ini aja masih ikut online-nya Harvard untuk disruptive strategi. Ya, jadi menurut saya kita butuh banget nih untuk mau terus belajar dan memperbaiki diri dan melihat ke depan ini perubahannya apa gitu. Tadi pagi saya di tengah jalan masih melakukan review buku tentang 2030 ya. Jadi apa yang akan terjadi pada 2030. Menurut saya itu juga sangat powerful untuk kita melihat bahwa semuanya akan berbeda dan kesempatan sekarang merupakan momen hebat buat kita untuk memperbaiki diri dan mempersiapkan diri. Apa yang akan terjadi 10 tahun lagi atau 15 tahun lagi itu ditentukan oleh 2-3 tahun sekarang ini apa yang kita lakukan. Itu saya yakini banget. Jadi buat teman-teman sekalian, semoga memberikan sedikit inspirasi untuk mau belajar lagi apapun. Nggak harus ngambil S2, apapun. Ya. Anda mau belajar lagi tentang legal, tentang law, tentang apapun, tentang dunia baru. Ya. Ini kesempatan yang luar biasa. Jadi menurut saya inilah momen-momen hebat kita dalam ke depan ini untuk menciptakan masa depan yang jauh lebih sukses. Terima kasih banget. Saya Tanah Di Santoso, sukses selalu untuk Anda.
Buat yang nggak kenal, ini Pak Tanah Di Santoso, Direktur S2 online. Ketemunya cuma bisa online doang soalnya. Oke.
Kalau, sebentar, Risa. Kalau Pak Riki adalah Ketua Kelas Batch 9 Unofficial, saya adalah Direktur S2 Unofficial, Pak. Kita sama-sama Unofficial. Thank you.
Online doang, online. Oke.
Online doang.
Maybe we can take pictures together. First, maybe the 4 of us, then Bu Tere sekalian Bu.
Wah, ya. Yang ada di atas, kalau yang mau silakan. Ini teman-teman kita semua, Pak Kim Sri, Pak Abdul Ghani. Pak Abdul Ghani ini sekarang juga jadi pembicara hebat sekarang. Ingat bayar pajak, nah begini.
Oke, nih teman-teman, ayo yang udah di open mic, saya spotlight. Jadi kita bisa sama-sama foto bersama. Tapi yang itu aja, yang buka itu aja. Oke, bisa dibantu dari Hendy.
Siap, I'm ready.
Double. Oke, 1, 2, 3. Baik, 1, 2, 3. Oke, thank you everyone. Thank you Daryl and May for coming. Thanks a lot. Ini teman-teman.
Thank you Daryl.
By the way, iklan. Next week kita masih ada satu lagi acara seperti ini. Betul nggak?
Baru saya mau info itu. Jadi ini saya mau share ke teman-teman. Minggu depan akan ada sesi 1 kali lagi. Dan itu nanti akan bersama dengan speaker dari Apple Academy kita, bukan kita sih, dari Apple Academy yang nanti akan pada jam yang sama, pada hari yang sama. Jadi ini saya mau share screen. Bu Tere mau share screen apa saya yang share screen?
Bisa aja.
Aduh ya udah, saya yang share screen sebentar.
Jadi Risa saat ini masih kuliah dan belajar di Apple Academy, padahal dia udah selesai di Harvard gitu. Jadi menurut saya learning itu tidak punya batas dan semoga menginspirasi teman-teman untuk mau belajar lagi.
Ya, jadi ini learning to innovate in the digital era. Jadi minggu depan ini akan kita bicarakan ya nyerempet sekalian juga sama new skills yang dari Daryl. Gimana kita learning to innovate in the digital era. Dan ini pengajarnya nanti, speakernya akan dari Pak Yulibar, ini learning facilitator di Apple Academy di Surabaya. Jadi itu dari kita, teman-teman boleh screen capture, boleh langsung daftar juga, ngundang teman-teman juga boleh. Jadi ini minggu depan.
Andy bisa dibantu untuk dimasukkan ke dalam chat linknya. Supaya tinggal klik aja. So next week, same time, 1 September 2021 ketika saya sudah di Surabaya.
Alright, jadi
Walaupun
ini
masih dikurung di hotel.
Nah, Oke, terima kasih semuanya. Ini boleh teman-teman linknya akan ada di bawah sini di chat teman-teman, boleh sign up. For everyone else, terima kasih sudah stay sampai akhir. Ini kita nggak expect tadi constantly at 190 people, jadi ini thank you banget. Terutama ini karena pematerinya juga asik banget ya. So thank you Daryl and May as well. We will invite you again later on, maybe offline next time.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you.
Sure, thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you May, thank you Daryl, thank you
Bye.
Risa.
Good night everyone.
Thank you, Daryl, Jenny, Miley, Jen.
They can speak Chinese.
He speaks Chinese very well.
Wonderful.
Thank you everyone. All right. Good night.
Okay, let's count from 5 and then we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, done.